Okay. What's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hanging with Mangg. Episode 555. It's a lot. That is a lot. Yeah, so we're playing some more RimWorld. I've been really quite obsessed with RimWorld over the last couple weeks. So I've recorded a few playthroughs, so there'll be more of that coming. And yeah, that's kind of it about that. This week on this channel we had Claire Obscure and Doom the Dark Ages. Claire Obscure, I think, will finish this week. Maybe. I think there's 18 total videos for that series, so it's getting there. And then Doom the Dark Ages, I'm expecting around 10 videos. So yeah, shouldn't be too much long for both of those. And then I can upload RimWorld, I could upload Elden Ring Convergence. I could upload more solo role-manging. I got various things. Various things sitting on the hard drive. Hey, Durden. Obsessed with RimWorld. Sounds like things are normal in the Mangverse. Yeah. Yeah. I gave RimWorld a good break, but then it pulled me back into its clutches. Apparently, there's a lot of speculation there's going to be another DLC announced soon. So, things are good for RimWorld. But I do want to record another Cataclysm playthrough very soon. So then things will be really good. Elden Ring Night Rain comes out this week. At this very moment, I don't have it pre-ordered, and I'm not planning on buying it. I'm waiting to see reviews specifically on how it plays solo. I don't really have high hopes for it, so I'm not going to be disappointed if they say, yeah, it doesn't really work that well solo, or it's like really difficult solo or something like that. Apparently, they're maybe getting a little bit more accepting of the idea of duos, and then if that is added, then Lego and I might try it out. But yeah, it's a spin-off game, and it's like whatever. It's not being directed by Miyazaki or anything like that, so it's not really like a true Soulsborne game. So it's fine if I skip it, but we'll see. They just announced, they're having like some 40K event going on right now. So they announced a remaster of the first Space Marine game. It's not even really, I don't know how much of it's like a light remaster, really. It's like an upscaling thing and making it work on modern systems, which is also what they're doing for the original Dawn of War, the definitive edition now, which is going to combine all the expansion packs. It's all going to be in one thing that runs on modern systems, is upscaled 4K and all that sort of stuff. It's kind of good, kind of bad. It's going to make it more accessible to a lot of people, which is very good. It's going to be just like one thing. You just tell people and they fire up one game and that's everything, and it should work on people's, everyone's system. Multiplayer should work pretty well. There shouldn't be any like RAM crashes because they said that it's going to support all the mods that Dawn of War currently supports. So it's not really a true remaster or anything. It's just like an optimization / visual remaster thing, upscaling. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that because when I tried to get some people into Dawn of War multiplayer, it was rough. It didn't Didn't really go too well, so I would like, obviously, like a full-scale remaster, like sort of like what the Oblivion remaster just was, or even just like a remake. But it is tricky because there are some very, very good mods for that game. And if we got a full-scale remake, you know, those mods would all have to be full-scale remade, and that would take a long time. In the long run, it would be better, but yeah, it would be yeah, it would be something. I'd also like to just see Dawn of War 4 and going back to the Dawn of War 1 style. RTS games have been dead for a while now, but you know, the fact that they're have anything to do with Dawn of War is sort of promising. Anyways, also I saw that there's a 40k typing shooter now called like Words of Vengeance. I may have to play that because they announced Bolt Gun 2, and then they like shadow dropped this this typing game alongside it. So that's cool. It's at very positive ratings right now. But yeah, other than that, after Clair Obscur and Doom the Dark Ages, it's just going to be going back to older games for a while, most likely. Yeah. Over on the Exploring series, we had The Unwell, which did pretty well. Haha. For views. I was surprised. I was pleased. Not too shabby. And then this week, I worked on temporal SCPs. All about articles that involve messing with time in some way. So we got a good mix of some space stuff and some space-time stuff and weird clocks, and, you know, it's a good mixture. It's like 50-some minutes long. And, yeah, that's that. That's that. There's a lot of SCPs out there, man. I don't know if you guys are aware of that or not, but there's a lot. Every time I do one of these compilation videos, it's just like, Jesus. There's just thousands of them. Thousands. So, yeah, there's only so many of, like, the big epic one. I mean, I know people often think that that's just, like, all there is just, like, you know, 50,000 word epic stuff of world destroyers, but there's really not that many of them. And I seek those out. So most SCPs are like these kind of little ones that are like 8 to 10 minutes long. So I have to do more of these kind of compilation ones, but you know, I like tying them together with a good theme. So a lot kind of just get passed by for one reason or another. But you know, we'll get to everything eventually. If I live long enough. Right, so that's all that. Business as usual. RPGs this week. So I did DM for my friends again, a one-shot. You know, last time we did Shadow Dark and it went pretty well, but this time I wanted to switch over to Tales of Argosa because I enjoy it more than Shadow Dark, and Lego enjoys it more than Shadow Dark, so I figured it would be good. The problem was, of course, classic DM problem. I was so obsessed playing RimWorld, just like every waking moment I could, that I kept procrastinating on preparing anything for the session. So it was like 2 hours before the session and I had nothing ready. I didn't even have an adventure picked out, nothing. So yeah, I had to kind of scramble last minute. And I was looking through, because there aren't that many adventures that I have like ready and available that are suitable for just like 2.5 hours and just sit down and go, like convention one shot sort of. I don't seek out convention one shots that often, because it's tricky. I mean, usually the best way to do that is like a one-page dungeon where you have the entire dungeon and all the information. It's on one piece of paper, you know? But I don't really care for those because it just requires usually a lot of like improvisation, and I struggle with that. So I like the more old school, just everything written out kind of stuff. So I was just quickly flipping through trying to find something pretty short, and I settled on a Labyrinth Lord adventure, The Wheel of Evil, which is about a town famous for making extravagant cheeses, which they age in the nearby caves. But they call upon adventurers because some kobolds came from deeper in the cave system and started stealing their cheeses. So it has a very sort of whimsical and just like, silly sort of premise, but it does not... It gets real weird real quick, because the actual plot of it is that there is this sentient mold living deep in the cave system that is like mind controlling the kobolds through fungus. And now the cave system is just overgrown with sentient fungus and stuff. And he's managed to mind control the foreman that oversees the cheese operation. And he plans to distribute around the entire kingdom this like corrupted cheese that's going to mind control everybody. So it's a pretty hefty consequence that these adventurers stumble into. So, I had some pre-made characters ready for them. I had a rogue, a ranger, a fighter, was it a fighter? There's definitely a rogue, definitely a ranger, definitely a magic user. And then I specifically didn't go with a cleric, so I think it was a fighter, yeah. Yeah, it was a dwarf fighter, dwarf ranger, a rogue, and a magic user. And, I use axe magic for the spells, which is like, first edition AD&D spells. I don't use Tales of Argosa spells. So I just picked a couple random spells. For the magic user, I picked Desiccate and Slickness. So like grease, and then like a sort of small AoE Desiccate spell that drains the moisture from their bodies. Nobody picked the magic user. I was really surprised, because I would never pass up a magic user. And honestly, like, grease is a classic, extremely good spell that has many, many applications. Wait a minute, are you loading pure beer into my Biosculptor pod? Can we maybe not do that? Are you loading weed into there? No, okay, good. You're not loading weed. Just don't load any drinks, please. I just happened to catch that. He's just loading pure beer. All my beer into my Biosculptor pod so I can survive off beer for 4 days. Anyways. So yeah, no one picked the magic user. Would have been really good, because grease is good, and Desiccate was like, it wasn't a big AoE, but you could certainly catch a few targets in melee with it and do 1d12 damage, which at level 1 in like old school D&D is enough to kill practically anything. Most stuff has like 4 HP, so surviving off beer for 4 days sounds like a classic college adventure. Yeah, but it's really funny because he does like a yearly age reversal procedure in this pod that basically, adds a year to his life, or, reverses his age by 1 year. And it's like, I feel like that's counterproductive if during that process you're just surviving off pure beer for 4 days. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, so no one picked the magic user. They went with the rogue, the ranger, and the fighter. And they went in, and, it was pretty typical. It was pretty railroady at the start, and they get into the caves, and it's a cave system, so there's not too many options available to you. It's it's not like this big sprawling dungeon. It's mostly just going through the tunnels. But I just really wanted to introduce the mechanics of Tales of Argosa because I think it's a very solid system. And they had some fun with it. They got into some combat, and I think it was the fighter was using this like he had a heavy crossbow. It was the fighter. I think it was the fighter, which does like 2d8 damage. And so one of the first things they encountered was a gelatinous cube in the tunnels. And he just rocketed this heavy crossbow bolt. He crit. It just did an obscene amount of damage. Normally a gelatinous cube would be really tricky, but he basically sent it packing in one shot. So they were all pretty pleased with that. It really wasn't the best adventure to showcase the system. Anything that had like a more traditional dungeon layout with like traps and locks and I don't know. But I mean, it was my own fault. I sort of scrambled to prepare it. That's what's in the Lazarus pits in Batman lore. That could be. Could very well be. Yeah, so they got into some fight. They did the gelatinous cube. They did some like mold kobolds, like kobold skeletons just completely covered in mold. And those were pretty damaging things. They did like 1d4 plus 1d6 damage, so they were not lightweight. But Tales of Argosa characters at level 1 are hardier, so that helped. Then they came across some like just normal kobolds that live down there. And of course they immediately they saw one that had like a staff. And they did not like that. So they immediately shot the heavy crossbow and just pinned this fucking kobold to the wall. And it's like it was the only kobold in the whole community that spoke common and could have actually talked to them. And they just killed him without even thinking for a moment about it. They slaughtered all the kobolds, and you know, it's one-shot mentality, and they're always kind of in that, and I understand. It's not like and that it's a one-shot. It's not like I have these like campaign expectations for it or anything, so I don't care. It's just having fun. They went deeper into the caves. They were on their way to the Mold Master when they came across the tunnel branched, and one branch went underwater. So it was like a flooded tunnel. And rather than going to check out any other branches, they were just like, yeah, we're going to go swim through it. You know, my buddy Ziggy is usually the DM. So whenever he gets to play in a one-shot and stuff, he really just does whatever. You know, he really tries to just make it as wild as he can. And I'm aware of this. So I wasn't too surprised that he decided to just swim. But he convinced Lego to go with him. He did not convince my other friend to do so, who had some good sense to him. And the module says that basically anyone who attempts swimming this without like extreme precautions or extreme luck is most likely dead. It's like, okay, that's good. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to really do this. I had them roll luck rolls with disadvantage, and they both succeeded. Shockingly. So they made it through the tunnel, but in the middle of the tunnel, there's like this caustic green slime that coats them. And so they get out and they just start melting. And it specifically says that it can't be scrubbed off easily. So yeah, they made it through amazingly, but then they melted to death on the other side. And then my other friend on his own started going through the other branches of the tunnel, but he got attacked by this yellow ochre slime. And he also got melted, and that was it. I mean, it was like basically the end of the night anyways, and that was probably motivation for Ziggy to go swimming in the dark, horrible tunnel. But yeah, you know, it was a memorable enough ending, and no one was really upset about it, because it's a one-shot. Yeah. So that was fine. Like I said, it probably wasn't the greatest showcase of the system, but what can you do, you know? There's always a risk of hit or miss with things, and I think everyone enjoyed it, but the question is, like, you know, obviously people are going to equate, like, the experience with the system more than, like, analyzing the system itself. My family does that all the time. So, like, if I ask them next time if they want to play Shadow Dark, if they want to play Tales of Argosa, they're going to think about the adventure from Shadow Dark being more fun than the adventure from Tales of Argosa, rather than mechanically which one could be more fun. But at the end of the day, if they have a lot of fun with Shadow Dark, then, you know, that's a good thing. That means the Shadow Dark is not bad, and it isn't. I like Tales of Argosa better, but, you know, it is a bit more involved. So there's that. For my family, we were missing our magic user this time, who died last week at the end to the assassin. So they were down one character, and they started outside the mines. They went back to camp, and they recovered, and they really were just thinking a lot about this assassin and what to do about it. And they took all the money and stuff off of my nephew's corpse. Because they went over, like, you know, I mentioned the idea of, well, you could throw him an honorable funeral, which is a rule from Axe, where if you basically throw a bunch of money away for a big funeral, and that next character then gets to start with a certain amount of XP based on what you spent. I said that is an option. He didn't put anything into his XP investment fund. So his new character will start at level 1 with 0 XP, but you could throw him an honorary funeral now. And they debated about it, they thought about it, and then they just looted his corpse and left his body there at the mines. So, you know, I'm not too shocked. The honorable funeral idea is really a it's a tough sell, because it's like, here, take all your money and dump it, throw it away, so that someone else's character gets to start off better. That's a tough sell. It takes a really sort of a friendly group that works together well. Most people are going to take the money and run, so that's what they did. So they're sitting at the camp, they're talking, and Lego decides, why don't they just take that money, take all their money, and go and hire a different, better assassin to assassinate this assassin. And I was like, okay, I mean, I guess. Axe doesn't really have rules for that. It doesn't really let you hire anyone that's, like, higher than 4th level. But if I got down to the nitty-gritty, I did mention to them the assassin is, like, 6th level, sort of. It's a monster, it's a creature, it doesn't really have levels. It has hit dice, and it does have quite a bit of hit dice. But, like, a level 4... player character assassin would be pretty reasonable in killing it. Actually, let me just double check. I don't even have Tales of Argosa here. I just want to see how much damage, like, a level 4 rogue in Tales of Argosa could do with a backstab. So it would be +4 attack bonus and an additional 3d6 damage. If you're attacking with advantage, you have a pretty good odds of getting a crit, or decent odds of getting a crit. And you're level 4, and you're attacking with, say, a short sword. Give you a decent strength. Let's see, a crit with a short sword normally would do 8, let's say 10 damage, plus 3d6, that would be 28. So I think, yeah, like, barely. I think a level 4 rogue, very lucky, like, really lucky, to be honest. Yes, could one-shot this assassin. Axe doesn't allow you to hire, really, or doesn't have any info or charts for hiring above 4th level characters. You can find them out in the world, obviously, but they're not just, like, looking for work in town. But I figured, like, a high-level assassin, he might do stuff like that. And he's not that high level. He's 6th level. I think they wanted 7th level. So I went off of the monthly wage by henchman, which for a 7th level character is 1,600 gold per month is the wage they demand. And I figure, okay, for a contract, I think a monthly wage is fair. And they were happy enough to spend it. They wanted a 7th level assassin, so they were willing to spend 1,600 gold. And I didn't have any info for, like, what it would take to hire somebody like this. Or, I mean, like, the likelihood of finding them in a city or something like that. So I sort of just went off the general table for the city size and the value of the item you're trying to buy. So for, like, anything that's, I think it was 1,000 to like 10,000 gold, there's a table. And so a class 2 city, which is the second biggest, will have one of those items that you're trying to buy per month. So I was like, okay, basically, if they go to the bigger city nearby, they spend a little more time traveling to the bigger city, they'll be able to find one assassin of that level to hire per month. Whereas if they went to the smaller town they're more familiar with, they would have a 25% chance of finding an assassin per month. So they were willing to go to the bigger one. And they spent some time just, carousing and looking for him. They spent like a week. And it was pretty much pay half now, half on delivery of her head. So they put down 800 gold, and they were happy to spend it. And he went on his way. And then, so then I had to decide how I wanted to do this interaction between two NPCs that's sort of in the background. How do I want to have one assassin hunting another assassin? And so I really just decided to simplify it. And I was like, okay, their assassin knows about the other assassin. The other assassin does not know about their assassin, so he has the advantage in this scuffle. So I was like, okay, it's going to be pretty simple. We're just going to do a roll. They're not going to know the result of my roll. So they're not really going to know if they succeeded or not. Until, so he might show up with her head, or she might show up and stab him in the back. So, they don't know yet. But I let them roll with advantage, because he does have the advantage in this situation. So they rolled twice, and Lego rolled a 4 and a 5. And they were really upset. They were just like, 800 gold down the drain. I rolled, secretly, a 9. So technically, I did roll higher, and I was, my assassin would have killed theirs. But it was a decent enough plan. They spent a lot of money on it, and it was close enough that I decided, basically, their assassin died. He definitely was the lesser assassin here. But he did injure her enough that she's going to go into, she's going to go into hiding and just kind of recover for a while. And I basically swept the assassin problem under the rug with that. They resolved it. And honestly, they resolved it in sort of a best way for them, where they don't have to pay the other 800 gold because their guy is dead. The only thing is they don't know that it's over. So they're still going to be somewhat paranoid. Although knowing them, they'll forget all about it by next week. But yeah, anyways. So they went back to the mines later because they thought there might be some more treasure there. They wanted to actually clear out the dungeon, which was good. They killed some more zombies. They went all the way back to where their fear spawn was, and they found a chest containing 4,000 gold pieces. So they were all very, very pleased with that. And I don't think they really spent anything, because they really wanted to do something else in the session with it, rather than just go to another town and wait another month to buy a bunch of stuff or whatever. So they decided, pretty much through some cajoling from me, to go into Ilmire at night and sneak into the temple to kill the last fear spawn that they know about. which I believe is actually the last fear spawn. So, yeah, they snuck in, and we did some stealth rolls. Again, group checks are really just nice, because there is a chance for failure. Group checks definitely still offer a chance for failure, but it makes it so that you can have a party that has a super stealthy rogue and a big clunky fighter, and it's not just like, well, stealth is never an option. We can't do any stealth ever because we have this fucking fighter here. Which is realistic, I agree. And Axe would certainly never do group checks, but I think it's nice enough. So they get close to the temple, and they see that there's, like, cultists patrolling around the temple at night with torches. And so this is where my aunt stepped in, because she's playing a halfling, so she has advantage on all stealth checks. So she snuck up behind all of them and knocked them all out. And, you know, it was a very... It was easy enough. I mean, she has advantage on all this shit, but it was fun, and there was still a chance of failure and stuff, so it was kind of exciting. And they all really enjoyed it, so that was good. And then they tracked down the secret entrance underneath the mausoleum in the graveyard, and they snuck down into the catacombs, and they fought some more zombies that were down there. And then they got to, like, a dead end down in the catacombs, and there was pretty much nothing down there, except for one wall had a skull etched into it. So there's just, like, a part of the wall that has a skull etched into it. And so they started discussing it a little bit, but my mom was very vehement that there's just nothing good can come from that. This is a dead end. Let's just move on. And they were about to just walk away and go leave and go back upstairs. And I sort of flipped out. I was running on very low sleep because of RimWorld, so that didn't help. But I also they were so close to the last fear spawn and, like, the big boss here, and I just wanted them to, like, resolve this, you know? So I flipped out, and I was lecturing them about all this. Like, and I was just like, what do you think the dungeon designer thought when he put this etching of a skull on the wall? And admittedly, there are times, I guess, like in bad dungeon design, where something is literally just a trap. There's no reward, there's no promise of reward. Like, it's literally just you touch this and your bad stuff happens because you're a big dumb idiot. It can happen, but a good dungeon should never really have an aspect like that, you know? And really, you know, every trap should be defeatable. It shouldn't just be like, I have to suffer this in order to get what I want. Like, everything should be surmountable through some sort of cleverness. And yes, that is their problem. I understand. But still, just ignoring it and walking away is not the solution. So so the skull, of course, was trapped, but it was a secret door that they needed to go past to get to the boss. So it was trapped. It was trapped with a magical rune that cast Cause Light Wounds if you touched it. Okay, but if you just push on it with, like, a stick or something, the door will open and won't trigger the trap, which is how you're supposed to defeat it. And old school RPGers, you know, and new school players, really, you know that you're supposed to not touch anything with your fingers or your hand. You're supposed to push on stuff with a 10-foot pole. That's why the 10-foot pole meme exists. But no, my mom just walked up and pushed on it, and she took a bunch of damage from the trap, but then they pushed the door open and so on and so forth. And so then, using X-ray goggles that my aunt has, she saw into the next room where she saw there was a guy sitting at a desk. And this was one of the big bads of the whole cult. They didn't know that at the time. They just saw a guy sitting at a desk. And they thought, well, Lego thought, maybe it's an innocent guy. You know, maybe we're going to jump in there and kill him and he's innocent. So he wanted them to knock him out. So my aunt snuck up behind him, except he noticed her. So then she rushed in and tried to knock him out with the, you know, knocking him in the face. Of course, he's a big bad boss, so he has a lot of health. You're not going to just knock him out with one shot. So they got into a fight, and he was not looking good. They all tried to knock him out, and he took a lot of damage. So on his turn, he cast Darkness, and he plunged the room into magical darkness, and then he fled through another door that leads to the Fear Spawn. They all tried to rush after him in the darkness. And my Lego and my aunt chased after him. My mom tried, but she ran into a wall instead. And so they get into the next room, and the guy runs behind the Fear Spawn and cowers behind him, and the Fear Spawn rears up, and they get into a big fight with the Fear Spawn. And it was pretty iffy. My aunt took a barrage of shots. She used her gun, and she rolled massively with her gun. She did like 20 damage with her gun or something. It was obscene. And she tried to do a major exploit to pierce through the Fear Spawn to shoot the guy as well, but she failed, which would have really just ended the whole thing right away. So it was a little iffy, but Lego has some very good heals at this point. He's using my custom paladin class, and it's probably a little overtuned, but it's fine. It's fine. And so, yeah, needless to say, they won. They all won. They survived, and they killed the evil priest, one of the leaders of the cult. And so I gave them all 20 XP, which is way out of the guidelines of the actual book and the rules. But that's why I changed the XP system to require much more XP, because I know that I give out more than I should. So it just solves that problem. It allows me to still give out more, and people like getting more. I mean, when you 20 XP is like, oh my god. Within that, within that scaling system. So yeah, they were all pretty pleased, and the night went longer than I would have wanted because I was really tired, but you don't want to end right before the big boss. You want to do the big boss, and they did, so they were pretty happy. And then I asked them, like, as we were cleaning up, I was like, do you have any thoughts about what you might like to play in a campaign after this? If you want to do more Tales of Argosa, if you wanted to switch to, like, 13th Age or Weird Wizard, or even not fantasy at all, because I'd like to do like Cyberpunk or something. They were all kind of shocked that I was talking about the next campaign. But I'm like, I mean, you've killed 3 out of 3 Fear Spawn. You've killed one of the 2 leaders. You've dealt, you wiped out all the bandits. You've dealt really terrible blows to the cult. Like, honestly, it probably could almost be done there. Like, they would just wrap up, they would pack up and leave, because this is fucked. Their operations are fucked. But they're fanatical, so they're gonna go to the bitter end. But assuming they can find stuff, and I can easily have the druid sort of steer them towards the final confrontation. Because really, like, the other leader and the Fear Mother are in the same location. So if the druid just tells them where the cult headquarters is out in the wilderness, they can just go there and finish the whole thing and be done. There's a lot left. I mean, there's so many other dungeons they could go into, but it's all basically side content. Like, the goal of the campaign was to eliminate the cult, and they're honestly pretty close to doing so. So, yeah, because they're level 4 now in Tales of Argosa, which means they're pretty capable. They're pretty powerful. They don't really have an abundance of magic items because they haven't done a lot of dungeons, and it's the fact that a lot of the magic items you can get in Evils of Ilmire are like cult artifacts. So they're all kind of like cursed or dark or evil, and Lego has just always been steering clear of that stuff. So they actually found like this cursed shovel artifact that functions as a +2 axe. But Lego determined that it was cursed. He didn't know the nature of the curse or anything like that. He could study it more if he wanted to, but yeah, anything cursed is pretty off-putting. So they just like left it there. And then afterwards he was like, would you have taken it if you were playing? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't probably touch it. I'd like wrap it in a bundle or something, but I would fucking take it. I wouldn't just leave a magical artifact in the basement somewhere. Like, unless I knew that touching or moving it in any way would just like detonate or something like that. I would find some way to take it. Yeah, I mean, of course. So that's where we ended. And for me as a DM, I would do more Tales of Argosa for sure. I mean, I really like it. And I commented on how easy it is to run Evils of Ilmire. Just like every week, I don't do like any prep. I just sit down and we just go. It is lengthy and slow, and that's why it's easy to run for as a DM, because everything takes so much time. And a lot of it is just kind of like random rolls and, you know, random occurrences, or them just kind of freewheeling. There is no prep that I could really do. So I just don't know how much other stuff there is out there like Evils of Ilmire. I do have some things that I could run, and well, I haven't read, but I have heard comparisons to Evils of Ilmire. So there's some other stuff that I could run, and I would definitely be open to that. Lego really likes Shadow of the Weird Wizard, but I'm just not good at DMing it because it's really kind of it's the kind of campaign that my buddy Ziggy would run, and I'm not good at running that kind of stuff, where it's more free form, but like not really a hex crawl. Like, you kind of have to have a plot of some kind. Like, it's like a normal sort of D&D campaign, and I'm not good at coming up with that. And it involves usually more prep. And dealing with like all the leveling up and the rules and the classes and abilities, like for my mom and my aunt that don't read anything, is just kind of annoying. So then I thought about 13th Age, because they just released the latest playtest for this 13th Age 2nd edition, and I've been looking over a little bit of it, and it's looking really good now. It's looking all like polished. They have artwork in there. It's looking pretty close to release, I think. And I've read a few things of the classes and stuff. I've also read people's comments about it, and apparently it's all really, really solid stuff now. Some fun stuff in there, like the fighter. The fighter has this thing where, let me just look in the, I mean, it's lengthy, it's involved. The player's handbook here is 344 pages. And that's pretty massive. Oh yeah, here you go. So the fighter, one of their main class features of the fighter that they all get is momentum. If you haven't been hit since the end of your last turn, you have momentum. When you have momentum, you can roll an extra d20 with your first melee attack roll on your turn and choose the result you prefer. So if the enemy doesn't hit you, you get advantage on your next melee attack roll, which means, ergo, that the DM will of course target you to make sure that they hit you at least once every round. So you really become this. That is a brilliant way, I think, to do tanking in a medium that often doesn't allow for stuff like threat or things like that. And 4th edition D&D had stuff like that too, to encourage a target to be attacked. Whereas, you know, a lot of the times in games like this, it's just kind of like the DM's like, okay, I guess I'll target him, and I guess I'll target him. If I'm running like smarter creatures, then they might target like the wizard in the back or the archers in the back or something like that. But here it's like, okay, we all have a clear target. Like, I'm gonna fucking make sure that I hit this fighter, and the fighter knows that they want to be they're gonna be targeted. So they, like, my mom, when she plays, she likes playing fighters because it's simple, And she likes just having a lot of armor and stuff like that. And anytime that someone else gets hit in battle, she always kind of groans and is like, oh, I wish that would have gone to me. You know, she really wants to just like take all the damage. And so I think that would just be perfect for her, where she could just sit in there in the middle and be like, yes, target me. And that encourages you to have a lot of AC or some other defensive measures, because you only lose momentum if you get hit. So if they're all targeting you and attacking you, but no one hits, like, you still get it. So they have to just keep trying to hit you. I mean, narratively, I don't know how much sense it really makes, but that's okay. I mean, 13th Age is, combat-wise, it's pretty mechanical. It's kind of a crunchy game, so I'm not too bothered by that. So yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing with 2nd edition 13th Age. And so I mentioned 13th Age to them because I was like, you know, you guys do a lot of thinking in Tales of Argosa. There's a lot of discussions going on because they're all very scared of dying. And so they are always like that skull, you know, they don't want to go anywhere near the skull because it might be damaged. Oh god, it might kill them. And the assassin, I mean, they spent like a total of an hour talking about the assassin, how to beat the assassin, blah blah blah. Whereas 13th Age is just, yeah, you're fucking heroes, you're expected to do hero shit, you're expected to just go into fights and do fights, and that's what you do. Problem with 13th Age, of course, is that it's crunchy. Like I just said, it has a lot of rules and it has a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of options for characters. There's a lot to remember. It's not just, it's not like Shadow Dark where you just like, yeah, I go up and I swing my sword, or you just sort of narrate your turn naturally. It's a rulesy kind of system. And that's not a great fit for players that don't remember a single rule from week to week. So I mentioned it, but after, you know, reading through more of this thing, it's more like, I don't know if it's going to be worth the hassle on my end to have to repeat stuff over and over, whereas they're already familiar with Tales of Argosa. But I think next time I DM for my friends, I'm very likely to do 13th Age, because we all started pretty much with 4th edition D&D, and this is really like the evolution of that in a lot of ways. So I think that'll be a pretty interesting time. But for the family, I don't know. They all like Tales of Argosa. They've liked this campaign. They've liked sort of the survival aspects and the sort of hex crawl, growing more powerful and making these decisions and stuff, and going after money. I mean, they've liked all of it. So my mom's like, you know, you're the DM, so what you say go. Whatever you pick, you know, that's what it is. But it's not really that simple. It's really not, because I have to deal with these people. And the one thing I really don't like is just repeating rules over and over. So it's probably in my best interest and their best interest to just continue with what we know. So, yeah, there's that. Yeah. That's about it. Okay, yeah. So, more Clair Obscur, more Doom the Dark Ages. Two very, very different games this week. And temporal SCPs over on the Exploring series. Good stuff. For now, though, my name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.